The Calling of St. Matthew is another great example of Caravaggio altering the biblical narrative to make it more relatable. Here we see it on the right of that image. Now, here, again, light is used to delineate the divine in a simple and ambiguous setting. After all, this is happening in a bar, and it would be recognizable in the 16th century, 16th or 17th, as a bar. You would recognize each of the characters. In fact, you would recognize them probably today. The divinity of the image is almost hidden. It's really a remarkable painting. For example, Christ can be identified by a dull, barely visible halo that we see there. With a raised hand, very reminiscent of Michelangelo's Adam, Levi, the tax collector, is called into a higher calling. He's called to be one of the disciples of Jesus. Meanwhile, Levi points at himself in disbelief. What you have to understand is he's a tax collector in the Roman world. And, well, tax collectors are really hated in the Roman world because they don't get paid a salary. Rather, they get paid based on adding a little bit to your taxes. So your taxes may hypothetically be the equivalent of $200, but you have to pay $250 because the tax collector is taking his cut so that he can get paid. Consequently, they tend to get murdered on a regular basis. They're really hated, and they're the kind of people that aren't generally called upon to be disciples of Jesus. It's kind of one of those issues. When you look at the rest of it, the others are simply unsure of what's going on. And in fact, we can identify them if you're old enough to have ever gone to a bar. Here's the guy who's barely holding on. He's had too much to drink. He's going. He's either going to pass out or vomit. It's kind of a race between which one comes first. Here's the old awkward guy that you're never sure where he comes from, but he always turns up at your table, usually to chat you up and talk about college stories that are clearly 40 years old. Here's the guy with no pants. You've all been in a bar or at a party where someone's not wearing pants. It's a little disturbing, but it happens. And here's the awkward guy who's photobombing unintentionally, wandering back from the bathroom, unsure of what's going on, has no idea that he's walking in front of Jesus, that Jesus is calling Levi. None of that's happening to him. He's just coming back to the table. This makes it more relatable because as an Italian, in this period, I could have placed myself in any one of these roles. And by putting it in a very simple place with a very simple background, he's not taking away from the narrative. Look at the background. It's a solid wall with a window. The most interesting element of the background is really this cone of light that's shining from the right. The table is very simple, almost without legs. The bench, very simple. So he's taken out anything that doesn't need to be there because he wants us to focus on that interaction between Jesus and Levi. The rest of the humans simply add to it, adding that air of the pub without, well, all of the details that would be necessary to tell us, via setting, that this is happening in a bar.